You're for the Second Amendment. Do you have a gun?
I have a license to have a gun. Yes, I do.
Do you own one?
Yes, I do.
Do you use it? Gun range?
It's none of your business. It's really none of your business. I have a license to have a gun.
Gun control?
What are you talking about?
Or
You asked me if I have a gun.
Stronger
Yes, I have a
background
gun.
checks.
Excuse me. Yes, I have a gun, and yes, I have a permit to have a gun.
Stronger background checks. What about that? Is there any
I
steps
would
that you
look
would
into
take
it, but
to make it harder to get a gun in this country?
The problem is, once you get into that, you start getting into a situation, the slippery slope, where all of a sudden you're going to really violate the Second Amendment. I don't want to do anything to violate the Second Amendment. To me, the Second Amendment is very important.
Federal judge rules that California must accept concealed carry permit applications from out-of-state residents. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms, LLC. P.A.N. Firearms, your NRA certification of multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like channel, like content, what I do, you can support me with the link. Everything is appreciated. And once again, if your comment disappears, I'm not doing it. This is a growing problem on this platform with specific content and specific comments. So if it disappears, don't come down on me. I'm not doing it. Let's talk about this. And this is huge news. This kind of comes on the heels of what happened in New York. But New York, if you don't know this, basically has reciprocity with no one when it comes to concealed carry permits. New York does not recognize any other permit from any of the state, and that's pretty much true with Connecticut. But New York issued an order to accept out-of-state pistol permit applications for concealed carry to stave off a lawsuit. But California decided to double down, and they just lost in court as a federal judge has ruled that California must accept out-of-state concealed carry permit applications, and this is massive. Now, here's the thing. Connecticut has reciprocity with no one. They don't recognize any other permits. New York is the same way. California basically is the same thing. But for us here in Connecticut, knowing that New York must accept concealed carry permit applications from out-of-state residents is a big deal, because some parts of Connecticut encroach with New York. A perfect example, and of course I'm talking to Connecticut people, if you don't know, I'll put a map up behind me so those of you who don't live here know what I'm talking about. There's a section in Stamford that connects Long Ridge and High Ridge roads together. It's a road that connects the two together. But as you go down that road, you're going into New York. You go in and out of New York. So there used to be, I'm trying to remember the name, there's a key bank that used to sit right at that line. And there's always a police officer sitting there waiting for motorcyclists who would ride through without a helmet. Because in New York, they have a helmet law. Connecticut does not. And so you really couldn't ride through there carrying a gun because you're in New York. That was the big deal. So now Connecticut residents can get a New York concealed carry permit, but you're going to jump through every hoop on the planet because the process is long, arduous, and expensive. That's how they're trying to counter having to issue that permit. But let's talk about California, what has happened out there. I'm going to bring you here. California must issue concealed carry permits to out-of-state residents. This is big news. Federal judges ordered California to accept concealed carry applications from out-of-state residents. This victory is the second time a state has been forced to issue out-of-state concealed carry permits this month. Early in August, New York City passed an emergency order to issue permits to non-New York residents to avoid a lawsuit by Gun Owners of America. And this is an ongoing case, but it's Gun Owners of America, California Rifle Pistol Association, Gun Owners Foundation, and the Second Amendment Foundation. And basically the crux of the case is NYSRPA versus Los Angeles Sheriff's Police Department. But coming down to here, the plaintiffs claim that the California concealed carry permit scheme was unconstitutional. Any state that has reciprocity with no other state is technically unconstitutional based on Bruen. But they allege that the state's concealed carry law contradicts the Supreme Court Bruen opinion. Bruen says the right to bear arms extends beyond the home, and the state must have a way for Americans to carry guns for self-defense outside their residence. The ruling mandated that all states shall issue, since the California scheme had no way for an out-of-state resident to carry a firearm in California. It was in direct conflict with the Bruen legal standard, according to the plaintiffs. Now, California argued, although this law was not consistent with the text of the Second Amendment, so they're already violating it, and they know they are, it was consistent with the tradition and history of the Second Amendment, which makes no sense, because back in the writing and ratification of the Second Amendment, if you had a gun, you can go anywhere with it. You didn't need a permit. You didn't even permission. You just had a gun and you just went wherever you wanted. So I'm not sure what California's saying here, but once a law is established as inconsistent with the text of the Second Amendment, the burden falls on the state to provide historical analogs from the founding era to demonstrate that the current law would have been allowed at the time of the Second Amendment's ratification. The state provided examples of laws, but all the laws cited were based on racism. Exactly. Virginia, first gun control law, forbade, let's call them Native Americans, from carrying guns. Then it just went on from there, from Native Americans to black people. All gun control laws got their roots in racism, all of them. The judge rejected the state's attempt to justify its concealed carry permit scheme by citing racist laws from the 20th century and laws that were not similar to the California law. For clarity and for purpose of this motion, the present issue is that non-resident plaintiffs' Second Amendment rights to lawfully carry firearms in public for self-defense are burdened. Indeed, entirely barred by California statute that allows only Californians to apply for CCW licenses, the judge wrote. The only historical analogs offered by the state that involve a remotely similar method of burdening Second Amendment conduct, namely limiting exercise of Second Amendment rights for a state's own residents, are the 20th century laws in Georgia, Oregon, and West Virginia. Now, this is the interesting part because the district judge, one of them at least, is appointed by Joe Biden. And what she did here was issue a preliminary injunction nullifying the California law preventing out-of-state residents from applying for a concealed carry permit. She could have mandated reciprocity, but did not. But she also noted that the waiting time was too long and unconstitutional. And some people who live in California have to wait 18 months for concealed carry permit. New York was about the same thing. Sometimes it would go a year. But she's saying that the state would have to cut its wait times substantially, and then another judge refused to issue an injunction specifically against the fees, because this leaves California open to make any numbers they want. And then you have to bring another lawsuit against it. This is where it gets really sticky. They're going to have to issue these permits, but the guidelines that they're going to use to issue them is going to be on their terms, not on what's fair. That's the problem. But we shall see what happens going forward. Let me come out of that. So there it is. People who live around California, adjoining states, who have the same problem that we have here in Connecticut of encroaching on a state that has more restrictive Second Amendment rights, you now have the opportunity to apply for a California permit. Now, I can't tell you what the fees are because I'm pretty sure they're going to make it as difficult as possible for you to do so. That's unless they take this thing to the next level, appeal, and it gets basically put on hold until it goes through the system. Don't know what's going to happen yet. But this is big news. Connecticut residents, you can apply for a non-resident New York permit, but you're going to jump through hoops to do it. So, but it's nice to know it's there. But this is good news. Once again, Bruen strikes again. Positive news. Hopefully somebody will do one against Connecticut, because Connecticut has reciprocity with no one. It's time for them to rethink this whole notion of you being a legal permit holder in one state, but you can't come to another state because that state refuses to recognize your permit, even though you are proving yourself to be law-abiding by the fact that you went out and got the permit in the first place. Now, I hear a lot of people talking about national reciprocity. We got to be careful with that, because the only way that the Democrats would allow something like that is if it got a national registration to go along with it, and you don't want that. But let's see what happens going forward. But this is, once again, great news out of California. I'm just waiting for one of these assault weapons ban cases to make it to the Supreme Court and end this once and for all. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.